All right, everyone, we'll get started. Welcome on behalf of the Epic Air Quality Fund team, Mary Tran, Farah Kazi, and myself, Christa Hasenkopf. Thank you for joining us. The premise of this presentation is pretty simple and straightforward. Our goal is to give you the information you need to decide if this is a funding opportunity that is relevant for your work. And if so, we want to give you the most context we can for you to draft a strong and impactful application. And so with that, we'll get to the next slide. So some logistics, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. If you've registered for this webinar, which you have by dint of you listening, you'll get a recording of this presentation and the slide deck of the webinar that will be emailed to you. It'll also be available online if you want to share it with any colleagues. And we received a bunch of questions with the registrations, which we'll address in this presentation. And if you still have questions, please use the Q&A box feature to ask any questions that are remaining. And if we don't get to your question, we'll also be updating our FAQ page for the Epic Air Quality Fund as well to address any of those missing items. So, quick background on the fund and why it exists. In 2023, we conducted some research to understand the need that this fund is serving and how best to craft it in order to make it effective. And in doing that, we surveyed several dozens of folks from around the world. We also did an analysis trying to understand where in the world, if we go to the previous slide, please. Thank you. Where in the world the most impact could be had, which countries in the world where relatively small amount of funds supporting open air quality data work could have a national level impact. And we also, in talking with various high agency actors across the world, tried to best understand the amounts of funding that would be most useful. And we also developed some guiding tenets that we believe is relevant for philanthropies in general, but most especially for our fund. And just very quickly, those four tenets is that we believe strongly in-country ownership of the data and equipment that the work we support goes towards. But we also believe in global infrastructure, so data shared openly so that the globe can benefit from that information. We believe in funding more than just air quality monitors. We know staffing costs are some of the most important costs that go into clean air work, as well as the other efforts around it, whether it's workshops or engaging with various decision makers and policy makers as well. We believe in funding humbly and for the long term. We know that air quality does not change overnight, so it's important to invest and have a long-term view at least in that work. And lastly, as I hope is clear as you're learning more about this opportunity, we believe in flexible funding. We know for a lot of the work that we support, it's in places where this is either new or perhaps not historically well supported. And so that means the work is hard and also sometimes unpredictable. And so we try to make the funding that we supply flexible around that. And so it mentioned that in this 2023 analysis, we looked across the world to find the highest priority places for the funding that we can support. We've revamped that in 2025 to more countries, to these 83 priority countries you see here, all those in any shade of purple. And then you also see these gold dots. Those are where the existing 31 awardees in 19 countries currently are operating in our program. And so before we dive into some of the logistics, I also want to emphasize that the North Star of our program is folks achieving national policy level impact through their open PM 2.5 data work. So this often requires folks not just to generate the data, but have a strong strategy, a sort of strong theory of change for how using that data can have this sort of drive this sort of impact. And when we first did this call a couple years ago, we had general ideas of what that is, but I want to share some of the specific stuff that awardees are doing now to give some concreteness to what this can look like. So, for example, a group in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Wasaru, in collaboration with Columbia University, has launched the country's largest and only open air quality data network. And because they did this, the government engaged with them, and they're working on their first ever decree on environmental standards. So that was the through line there for having a national level policy impact. Another example comes from the Gambia, a nonprofit called Permian Health. They had launched a monitor that engaged the National Environment Agency and eventually helped spur the creation of legislation that's made its way through Parliament to allow the creation of national air quality standards for the first time. This group is now also working on the Ministry of Health with the Ministry of Health to address the hotspots for pollution that has been identified through this awardee's work. And there's a lot of other examples, including ones in Malawi, Pakistan, Ghana, and Nigeria. But also, just briefly, for example, we have government agencies that we support directly that have used the funding to implement existing policy, but perhaps policy without financial support behind it, or to expand existing policy. As well. And so those are just some of the examples of this North Star goal that awardees come up with in the application process and then work towards through their supported projects. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Mary Tran, for the next few slides.
Thanks, Christa. So what exactly is the EPIC Air Quality Fund, and what is it that we're applying for? Currently, all of our awardees and future awardees, we focus in on funding organizations on the ground in countries with little to no available public air quality data. The funding within the program lasts 18 months. It's between award packages are between 50,000 and 75,000 USD. Important to note that organizations with projects that are focusing on low cost sensor deployment will be receiving on the $50,000 end, and organizations with projects that will be including a reference grade monitor either by itself or in conjunction with low-cost sensors, will be receiving packages closer to $75,000 for their award. And that award is also, there's a possibility to renew up to 2 times, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But just like Christa mentioned, all of our current awardees define this North Star goal by 2 primary requirements. One is to achieve a national level clean air policy impact within that time frame, or to have a timeline to get there. And then the second requirement is that the data needs to be fully open. It's fully open PM 2.5 data. Right now, the applications are going to end April 30th, and we're expecting approximately 20 new groups to be receiving awards. And then we will also provide this link in the chat for you guys. But next slide, Farah. So, oh, okay, perfect. Thank you, Farah. So who can apply? We've got a number of organizations that are eligible. You can see here on the left-hand side, universities, governments, nonprofits, and for-profit organizations, all eligible. There are 2 additional requirements. The organization must be legally authorized to receive funds from a U.S. institution, and they must have a working bank account that is able to accept funds in USD from a U.S. institution. Any individual that's looking to apply must apply with an organization that meets those 3 criteria. All countries are eligible to apply, except those on the U.S. Department of State Sponsors of Terrorism list. We'll also drop that in the chat as well. And if you are applying, it's only one entry per team at an organization. If we receive multiple entries from the same team, unfortunately, that means that all entries from that team will be disqualified. So please make sure you are careful when submitting an application. And then we also want to note that our current awardees do a lot of collaborations together. However, new applicants can't include a current Epic Air Quality Award team member within their proposal. Next slide, Farah. Oh, sorry. I think one back. Okay, thank you. Could we go the one right before this? Thank you.
Sorry, which one?
The priorities in this call, the one with the map.
Here?
Yes, thank you. So our priorities specifically for this call are the 83 countries that you see flagged here on the opportunity map. We also want to prioritize government entities and projects where there is a woman that's the lead investigator, primary applicant, PI. Of course, these are priorities, but this call is open to all for applying as long as you meet the eligibility requirements that we talked about previously. Next slide, Farah. And finally, why should you apply? Just like Krista mentioned earlier, this fund is unique in our priority to make this as flexible as possible for awardees. Our team here at Epic is here to support you. We are not here to mandate anything or direct your project. The funds that you receive are yours to do with within your project. Like Krista mentioned, staff, equipment, anything that's in relation to your project that you feel is relevant to reaching that North Star goal, you can prioritize how that's used on the ground. We won't have any say as to how you do that. But like we mentioned before about multi-year support, there is an opportunity to renew the funding, but there are requirements that lead to that renewal. One is the data generation, which is making sure that you have fully open PM 2.5 data, and that national level impact is reached during that time frame. So all of that will be in consideration when determining whether or not an award is renewed. And with that, I will pass it over to Farah.
Thank you so much, Mary. So 4 key things we are looking for in projects, proposals from countries that need it the most, perhaps countries where there's very little or no data. We have a list of 83 countries that are on our priority list. And as my colleagues have shared before, that those that are not there on the list but meet the eligibility criteria can still apply. So this answers your question. Can I apply to do work in a country not on the priority list? Yes, but you will need to make a case that this single project can make a national level impact. This will be especially harder in countries where there are already hundreds or thousands of government monitors. Then local actors. There were quite a few questions which also asked, what do we mean by a local actor? We do not give a precise definition of what a local actor is, but do you consider yourself a local actor? If you do not, we will not. But we do have a few questions that you can answer. And if you say yes to these, perhaps you should go ahead and apply. And if your answer is no to the above questions, you should reconsider applying and or sharing this opportunity with a colleague. So do you speak the relevant language of the place you intend to propose work? Do you have a long-term vested interest in the well-being of this place? Do you have a professional and social presence in this place? If the answer to all of these are yes, then you can perhaps go ahead and start filling out this application. Second is the ability to generate and openly share PM 2.5 data for at least 12 of the 18 months of the award. This data needs to be generated and also shared openly with the intent of working towards a national level goal. We require you to generate this data. This data must be legally owned by you. I'll come to that in a minute, and must be shared publicly and freely by you in a format that meets some requirements. We've created an open data guidance document that has our data sharing requirements as well as a table of censor companies. This is not exhaustive. And of course, you can reach out to other suppliers that are not there on this list, provided they meet the criteria that they allow you to own the data and share the data openly. And the biggest one, achieve national level impact with PM 2.5 data. So Christa has already shared 2 examples from our awardees from our previous years. But what exactly do we mean by achieving a national level impact? So for example, if you are a nonprofit working with the government department or ministry in your country, and you have enabled the creation of air quality standard or revision of air quality standards, then that is a national level goal that you can work towards. Say an awardee is a government department or a ministry and conducts a monitoring project to implement policy that has existed but has an unfunded mandate. So that is another one to work towards. An awardee, suppose an awardee, like a university, for example, forms an MOU with a government entity to help them use the data to formulate new clean air policies, then that is another example of national level systemic impact that you can work towards. What is not a national level impact? So for example, just sharing data without working towards a national level or a policy goal, that would be an example of a non-national level data. If you use the data to advocate for better masking or indoor filtration instead of support acts or policies that address the root cause of air pollution, which is basically reduction of emissions, then that is not an example. That is a non-example. If you're just conducting workshops with a national level stakeholder without an end goal of achieving specific policy level tasks or goals, etc., then that is a non-example. Publishing research papers is good as an additional step. However, we are not here to support only academic research. We are looking for applicants to work towards a national level goal. So here are the application details, the link for the call for proposals, FAQs, and the application form. You can save your applications and make changes till you submit your application. However, no revisions will be possible after the application is submitted. So before you submit your application, please make sure that you have attached the right files, you have attached the right links, etc. Now, when you open the application form, this is how it appears. Now, for everyone, the time and date might differ slightly. The dates and times are displayed in your local time zone and are automatically aligned with the corresponding Central European time. So the final deadline for the submission, final deadline of this submission is 30th April, 11:59 p.m. CET, but it may appear slightly different to you, and that is your specific deadline, after which you will not be able to access your form. So we are here at this part of the application timeline where the applications are open. The informational webinar is now up. We will have two sessions, two office hours, one a little later in March and one in midway through April. If you have any additional very specific questions that you would like to run through us, we will have open hours for that. We will be promoting that on our social media channels, as well as we will be sharing this in an email to all participants of this webinar. So submission deadline, 30th April, 11:59 p.m. CET, but please look out for the submission deadline that appears on your screen on your form. That is specific to you. For every country, it will appear differently. We will be shortlisting in May and June, and we will reach out to you if you are shortlisted for an interview. However, if we have not reached out to you, please be patient till we do actually reach out to you. There could be time. It could take us a while to get through all these applications. The final decision will be done by the summer of 2026, and you should all have received a notification of whether you've been accepted or rejected. So there were some questions that we've received along with the registration forms, registration of the webinar. So I'm going to share all of these over here with some answers that we have put together. Additionally, if you have any other questions, please type it out in the Q&A box. So the number of sensors procured through these funds may not be enough to cover an entire country. How do you advise we proceed? From our perspective, we do not equate national level policy impact with necessarily coverage of monitors throughout the country. You could achieve it by putting, say, one reference grade monitor in one very specific location, or you could have 10 monitors in a city or 1,000 monitors in a country. So that does not mean that, if you cannot put it all across the country, we won't be able to achieve a national level impact. If your effort is designed for coverage across an entire country and would exceed the funding provided here, you may need to seek additional funding elsewhere or scale down to a spatial scale that could have a national level policy impact. Can we do multiple applications for different countries? Now, any given team and any single person can be a PI on just one application. However, let's say, for example, I'm applying and I apply to work in multiple countries. But that doesn't mean that the funding will be multiplied. The funding will still remain 50,000 or 75, depending upon the type of monitoring network you choose. Additionally, it would remain true that we'd want to see national level impacts for each country. So we would advise you to perhaps stick with one country. The proposal seems to be targeting measurements of PM 2.5 only. How about other low-cost measurements of gaseous air pollutants? So while if you do that, that's absolutely fine. Our focus is on supporting PM 2.5 data collection, sharing, and impacts only. Does EPIC prioritize awarding air quality fund grants in countries different than those that have already received awards in the previous cycle? The 2026 cycle prioritizes applications from 83 countries, the link of which is provided at the bottom of the slide, regardless of whether they have received support in a previous cycle or no. So if the country is on the priority list, we strongly encourage you to apply. Can a city that currently lacks any type of monitoring apply to design and create a small low-cost sensor network to obtain initial measurements that will allow it to gradually move towards a consolidated network? Yes, absolutely. That is the goal, to provide support to countries with little or no monitoring. Is a combination of low-cost sensors from different manufacturers accepted in the EPIC grant application? Yes, provided you can justify the use of a combination of low-cost sensors. So the justification that you would need to make is when, after the budget section, we have a specific section for justification. Perhaps there you can justify why you need to procure monitors from different manufacturers. Do the PM 2.5 monitors, are they supposed to be purchased from you or can be sourced from other suppliers on the market? We do not supply air quality monitors or facilitate the purchase of air quality monitors. In fact, applicants have full flexibility to choose. We have a list in our guidance document, and we would like you to read those properly. There's a table of, a list of more commonly used manufacturers or more popular manufacturers, which are known globally. You can choose from those. If you feel that, the one you want to choose is not on our list, it is absolutely fine too. But you need to show a written documentation from the manufacturer that you would be able to own the data and you would be allowed to share the data openly, which meets a CC by 4.0 license. Does EPIC provide any technical guidance on preferred performance standards for low-cost sensors in hybrid PM 2.5 networks? Or should applicants independently justify the most suitable option for their context? EPIC does not provide specific technical standards, and one of the main reasons for this is that the regulatory requirements and data quality benchmarks will vary significantly across countries and contexts. So applicants are expected to justify the most suitable option for their context by taking into account local regulations and existing infrastructure and the intended use of the data. If there is any international meeting that we would like to participate in, could we include those expenses in the proposal? Including such costs would be okay as long as it directly supports the project achieving its national level policy impact. For example, if the meeting helps engage colleagues around achieving such policy impacts, this would be allowable. It is not allowable if it just supports, if you're just attending for general knowledge sharing in an academic setting. How best to prepare to increase our chances to secure funding through this fund? I think this is a last and final slide, which will help to put all the points together. So please carefully read all the content that has been provided on our website. Be very specific about measurable outcomes, number of monitors, number of cities, etc. Provide clarity in your budget and justification, and clearly state the national level impact you are trying to achieve. So thank you for patiently listening to us. If anyone has any questions, perhaps we can go through them. Christa?
I put one here in the item for you. I'll put it in the chat, or I can just read it, Farah, whichever's easiest.
Yeah, maybe you should read it.
So someone asked, in my case, I work at the Ministry of the Environment in Peru, and we're going to apply for funding. My question is, whose name should be listed on the application form? Should it be the name of the Minister of Environment, the name of the director of the department where I work, or their name as the specialist filling out the form?
Okay, so this is a very interesting question. I would suggest if you are the primary lead or applicant on this project, you should fill out your name, but also clearly state that the contract will be signed by, Minister of Environment or whoever the director of department where you work, whichever would be easier for you. I understand that, it would be very exciting to have the Ministry of Environment or the name of the minister online. But if you are going to be the lead applicant, I would suggest you put in your name on the project.
And another question we've gotten quite a bit is if there's an existing awardee, and I think you've addressed this, but maybe to emphasize since it's been repeated, if there's an existing awardee or number of awardees in a country, does that mean my group should not apply because there's already awardees in the country?
So this is something very interesting because there are a couple of awardees in a few countries. We already have, like for Nigeria, Cameroon, Pakistan, but it's not always about being first. It's also about collaboration. It's about what you can achieve best together. So if you can find a way to make a strong case and tell us why we should award your group or project, even though we have awardees that exist over there, I think you should be in pretty good shape. So you should apply as long as it's there on the list of 83 countries.
A question we've gotten, and I know we also have in the FAQ, but just to flag it, can current awardees be part of the team applying this round?
No. Awardees from an existing cycle that have an that where the award is still active cannot be part of the new team. Neither the prime, and when I say an existing awardee, I mean the primary applicant as well as the entire team that is a part of that project.
Yeah, another question, would a city level, like a capital city level project with a final goal to advocate for a nationwide policy using the municipality as a proof point count as a qualifying national level impact example?
Mm, can you repeat that again?
Yeah, would a city level, perhaps conducted in a capital city project that has the final goal to advocate for a nationwide policy using that city as a proof point, count as a qualifying national level
Yes.
impact example?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I think that does count as a national level impact.
I'm just looking through some more questions. We've got a lot trying to answer as many as we can on the fly. We've gotten this a few times, so maybe worth asking here. Is it allowable to include administrative support, such as a financial or grants manager to ensure proper fund management and reporting compliance?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
The question is around if they're allowed to use the funding for things like administrative report. We've had other questions that say, can I use this funding for stuff beyond just the sensors themselves? Those kind of questions.
So when you are planning for this, you don't necessarily need to assign the entire cost of the fund towards the equality monitors. You can assign it to everything else like project personnel. If you're planning to engage with stakeholders in the form of a workshop, etc., you can assign some funds for that. But they all need to culminate, and work towards or drive towards your national level impact.
Another question is, what's the minimum number of monitors that need to be included in a project?
There is no minimum or maximum number of monitors that can be deployed. There's no compulsion as such. If you think you can make a difference with one monitor, that's fine too. Though I don't believe that you'd be able to make a difference with a single low-cost monitor. Maybe a single reference grade monitor would be perhaps a different thing, but I don't think you'll be able to make a difference with a single low-cost monitor.
Farah, go ahead, Krista. Farah, we've received a couple of questions about manufacturing sensors. Here's a specific question. Are self-manufactured air quality sensors encouraged in some way? Does the funding require market certified air quality sensors?
Yeah, we need market certified air quality sensors. At this, currently we are not funding self-manufactured sensors. Yeah, any more questions?
Shirley here. Let's see. What is the minimum or maximum number of people that can be on a team?
Again, flexibility is key here and something that all of us have emphasized before in our presentation. You are going to decide what you want to do in this project, including the number of people on your team, who exactly you want to choose. That all depends on you. So you have complete flexibility.
Someone asks, can a new award benefit from an existing deliverable or ongoing project? So can this award go towards something that already exists, or can it only go towards a new project?
I don't know who's asked this question, but could you specify perhaps?
Yeah, well, in this case, it actually is an existing awardee, which is a different category. But the broader question is, if someone has an existing project going on, currently unfunded perhaps, or at least not funded by the Epic AQ Fund, can they apply for funding to scale that up or to grow it?
Uh, Yeah, I think so. I wouldn't believe that, there would be any reason for you not to apply. Perhaps if you're working on a project that is currently funded through X, Y, and Z organizations, please make sure to mention that because that is important as well. How you collaborate with different organizations, how you converge the different funding sources, that is also key and gives a lot of insight into the work that you all are doing.
And I know we're rounding out close on time, but this is a good one, I think. Could you walk through roughly what the framework for the budget looks like? What kind of line items do you typically expect or have seen from applicants, just to give folks a very rough sense of that?
So we have three basic categories. One is your equipment, that is air quality monitoring equipment. It could be other devices or so for example, there have been solar panels which have been used along with air quality monitoring equipments. Um, Some people have requested other devices as well to support the air quality monitoring equipment. That is one category. So the equipment is one category. Second is your personnel costs. And third is towards activities and engagement. So all the activities and engagements you will have over a period of 18 months, that will form the third category. So these are the three very specific categories: equipment, engagement and activities, and personnel.
And maybe we can fit in one or two more here. So one question is from India. Are we eligible to apply? Should we apply?
Okay.
That's the question.
So I'm from India, and I know for a fact that we have 400 plus sensors live by the government, reference grade monitors, and therefore I would not encourage folks from India to apply.
And Mary, if you beat me to the punch, I'm going to look for one more question.
And just 1 minute, just to further specify that this funding is for those countries where there's very little or no monitoring. That is one of the key reasons why I said that. And I therefore would not encourage someone from India to apply.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to that, like as far as says, and as the question actually pointed out, air pollution is a huge issue. Obviously, in India, it's more that on the margin, this funding may not have a national level impact in countries like India, China, or the US. That is why they don't rank highly as a priority on our list. Um, let's see, one more question here. So there's a couple questions around what happens afterwards. So as in after the project is over, who owns the data, who's in charge of running it after the grant period um, response there.
Okay,
Or the
so
monitoring. Who owns the monitoring? I said the data, but I actually meant the monitoring.
so the monitors are completely yours, and because you will have the monitors and you will have monitors from manufacturers who said that you could own the data. So all of that is yours after the monitoring period is after the project duration is over. And I does that answer the question?
I think so. I think so. And also just one quick thing there, because there might be an underlying question in it around sustainability. And so as Farah and I think Mary mentioned, we are seeking to renew grants that meet criteria pending our own funding for two other 18-month periods. This in total is about 4.5 years. During that period, though, we are looking for projects that can find sustainability beyond that period as well. Um, One more question, if I can find it. It might have disappeared as more appeared here. Yes. So maybe a good one to end on. And we'll also say happy to stay on and answer some questions by typing for a few minutes afterwards for those that we didn't get to. But Farah, can you talk through what happens after they submit their application? What should somebody expect? What are the next steps in the process like?
Okay, so after you submit an application, I think if you would like to do something in the time that while we are evaluating the applications, there are two links. One is a W8 Ben E form, basically two forms that we need you to fill if you are selected. So you could go through that. But once you have submitted, I think our work starts then. So you just need to be patient and hold on till we reach out to you.
And I think that's it for the questions we have. I know we're at time. Farah, I'll let you close out, but just to say I'll be continuing to type in answers as folks, if they want to stay online and see the answers.
Okay. Thank you so much, Krista. Thank you, Mary. Thank you to all those who have patiently been listening. If you have any questions that have been unanswered, or you know, wish to, suppose you have more questions after this session at any point of time, you can reach out to us at cleanairinfo@uchicago.edu. Thank you so much.